Hello, everyone. My name is Conrad on behalf of Camera Stuff, and today here in the Limelight, I have Geran and Michelle from Sculpt Studios. I'm a photographer and makeup artist, duodynamic. Hello, everyone. Hello, Geran and Michelle. How are you doing?
How's it? Good. Thanks, Conrad. How's it, everybody?
Very good yourself, man. Thanks for having us.
Doing well, thank you. So we have plenty to discuss today. So out there in internet land, at any point, if you have any questions to ask, please do so in the comment section. So this is being channeled on our Facebook groups and Facebook page as well. So right there in the comment section, you can ask anything and we'll see it on our side. So anything pertaining to the shoot or anything else, doesn't matter. Please do ask your questions. This is the reason why we're doing these live sessions, to be interactive with you guys. All right, so joined here by Sculpt Studio, we're going to talk about a specific project called Pride Blurred. So we're going to display some of the images, and Geran and Michelle, as done on their website, they have a couple of captions and descriptions to each image. So we're just going to do that, and then we're going to talk about the images and exhibition thereafter. So let me just get the slideshow ready here. All right, so you two can make turns. So we can go ahead.
All right. So Pride Red, which represents life. Okay. One day you will ask me which is more important, my life or yours. And I'll say mine, and you'll walk away not knowing that you are my life. That's Khalil Gibran. So it's widely accepted that the color red on the LGBTQ flag represents life. And being the parents of two really special teenage girls and having the incredible experience of childbirth twice, we agreed that the female form is still an accurate representation for birth and in turn life. The female form represents a vessel of life and love. Life herself is fairly nondescript, but obviously female in form. And the heart on her chest conveys the love that is felt when giving life to another human being, and the overwhelming love that develops within you for another human being. And in the picture, you can see life explodes with beauty and burns away the darkness with her light and her passion. The heart on her chest signifies love, which we believe is the key to life.
Okay, beautiful. So we're just going to go through the images. We're going to go into full detail as to how these shots were created and also talk about the exhibition in full detail just a little bit later, but just going through the images one by one. All right, so the next one.
Okay, the next is Pride Orange, which is healing. Healing is wide open to interpretation, much like everything in this world, and every person needs healing of some sorts sometime in their lives. But true healing begins within, and it is often a timely process that requires a lot of introspection and acceptance. Whatever that is experienced on an individual level, healing is universal. We can wax lyrical for hours on numerous situations require healing. But the model we used for healing has undergone her own struggles and has worked through her own healing and continues to blossom despite everything into one of the strongest women that we have met, who is now working to help others to heal.
Okay, beautiful. All right, so the next one.
Yeah, this is Pride Yellow, which represents sunlight. Okay, it's very bright and fantastic. Sunlight is generally thought of as a comforting, warm, and inspirational thing. We see it as a powerful force that allows growth and inspires courage and strength. Nothing will flourish without the warmth of the sun and its light. Our model in the photograph is an exquisite dancer who brings a lot of light into the lives of many people through his dance and teaching dance. Sunlight in the image leaps into the void, spreading his light and warmth to open the eyes of those who have not seen yet. He is optimism, new beginnings, and hope. Okay, we can move on to green.
Okay.
All right, next is Pride Green for nature. Such a simple concept to most is nature. Immediately we think of fauna and flora, but what of the imagination? What better representation of nature the myths of old who fought to preserve and nurture the earth. This beautiful elven creature surely conjures up images of ethereal beings that protect and preserve all of nature's splendor. Our model is an exquisite boy who truly blossomed in front of the camera, encompassing the miracle of growth and beauty.
This one I can hear the Lord of the Rings music playing in the background as well.
Absolutely.
He was fantastic.
He's such a beautiful person.
Okay, beautiful. All right, so on to blue.
Okay, blue, right. All right, so we, with blue, pride, which is serenity, arts, and magic. So we wanted to conceptualize a creature that represents serenity, the arts, and magic in one. Water is ultimately very calming, and the sound of water flowing creates a serene atmosphere. So we submerged this beautiful creature, giving her gills on the side of her head, and placed her in the yoga pose. Our model, who's also our beautiful teenage daughter, Aurora, is a beautiful and artistic soul and dancer who embodies the arts and magic.
Okay, so can you guys hear me? Sorry, I think it just froze up a little bit.
I can hear you there.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, sorry, I think it just froze my side. Now, this particular image I resonate with quite a lot. So I do think of myself as a bit of a watery person as well. Okay, so on to violet.
I'm not going to take this one from you.
I have to take this one as well because this is
Yes.
my favorite one.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, so for me, this one was very, very special because spirit had to be a drag queen. For us, that is the spirit of the LGBTQ community. And we are huge, well, me mostly, but we are huge RuPaul followers and fans, and have a hell of a lot of respect for what he's done for the gay and the LGBT communities, BTQ communities. So it was an obvious choice, that spirit is a queen, vulnerable, confident, and defiant. And our model was a very easy and obvious choice. This is someone we know very well who is, although he's still very young, he exudes every quality that we needed to portray in this photograph.
Oh yeah, very expressive here.
Very.
And this
Very
particular
good job.
shoot was everything but boring. The music was pumping. He was dancing.
We had a lot of fun.
Yes, I can imagine. Great. We'll see some of the behind the scenes also a little bit later. But yeah, also this is a great one. This one too.
So this represents Pride and Brown, which represents the people of color that was for a very long time not represented sufficiently inside the community. So even though it's got a very short description, and we say here we wanted to express the angst and struggle that has been ongoing for people of color. Our model, a self-taught dancer, embodied this theme beautifully with these elegant yet powerful movements. And the photograph speaks for itself. The image really does the talking here, and it took us a long time to decide on what the final image should be for this particular color, because everything he did was absolutely beautiful. But in this particular one, if you look at it from right to left, where he is part of the cloth on the right hand side and he's upside down and he's holding his head in a strained manner, and then his transformation into this glorious upstanding human being, and then finally discarding the cloth on the left hand side, really just worked so well for the story we wanted to tell in this particular image.
Oh, gosh, I can hear the emotion also from your side. Perfect.
Right.
So
Okay. So
next one.
So I do this one.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. The next one is Pride Pink and Blue and White, significant to the transgender community. And to fully grasp trans is to accept that people identify with a gender that is opposite to the one that is assigned to them, and may include those who are non-binary or queer gender queer. We convey this idea with a simple change-up of the stereotypical idea that pink is for girls and blue is for boys. Our models are both close friends of ours and happily agreed to do the shoot to help spread awareness about the trans community. Neither flinched at representing the opposite gender or sex. I don't know if it's a relevant point to make, but both the people in this shot are straight people. But what was really great about this project was we had so many straight people that actually wanted to be part of it, because they feel as well that the LGBTQ plus community, this was a great one to do, and it changed up at the last minute, because once the lighting is done and the makeup is on, then it's really up to the models to bring it to life. So they really did a good job with this one.
Yeah, and just to mention that they had never met before this day. So they walked into the studio. Both of them were very scantily clad because I had to body paint them from head to toe and everything in between and hair. And they got on like a house on fire, and they both knew that they were here to do something they believed in. And they got on very well, and they're friends now. So it was really a very special day. Yeah.
Okay, gorgeous. All right, y'all. So as I said, we're going to get more into detail. I'm just going through the images one by one first. Okay, so this is the last one, I suspect, yes.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, so this is Plus. And it comes down to a very famous quote of RuPaul's, which is, if you can't love yourself, how the hell are you going to love anybody else? So Plus he's full of himself, and he's proud, and he's beautiful. And we had a lot of fun doing this one. This one was really just born out of a lot of love and putting ideas together. So it was a great journey. And we used a lot of light and sparkles and stuff just to show the extra, the plus, making plus more. More plus had to be more. It had to be super plus. And I think we kind of achieved that.
Yeah, and it represents once we started doing the research for this project, I realized how little I actually understood. And if you look at LGBTQ, the plus represents everybody that we couldn't mention. Otherwise it would be almost an endless project. We'll get there one day, but for now it was just sort of this almost a religious figure, this devoted extra being that embodies the rest of the community, and we hope we did the community justice with this exhibition.
And that's why we used Geran for the specific shots as well. He was plus because he learned so much. But at the end of this experience, he felt, and vice versa. So it was a gain, win-win situation.
Yeah, I do think as creatives, I think creativity as a start requires empathy. Now, if we are responsible for illustrating and demonstrating the lives of others, now we learn just as much as we prod along. And as we say, the journey is more important than the destination itself. So, it's a wonderful thing being a creative. Now we learn, as we said, as we prod along, and now we often have our preconceived biases challenged. But we exit better people for it.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's essential to, we have to keep exploring, keep looking, keep getting comfortable sometimes, so that we can both grow, but also make up your mind about a certain topic. There's a lot of prejudice that's just thrown out there, and we don't take the effort to learn about something new. So I really loved being part of this project and going through it and talking to people, and the support that the actual community gave us for it, and willing to chat and explain their sides really helped us to sort of formulate what we came up with in the end of the day.
All right. Okay, so we had a look at the images. So now we're going to get into our question round. So from my side, You're going to see the questions pop up here in the left-hand corner. So already a lot explained, but now just from base level, can you tell us what the project was about?
All right, so specifics. It is basically a take on Daniel Quasar. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. He's a part of the community. He designed the Progress Pride flag. And so this was our take on how to represent all those colors in that flag. And obviously being photographers and makeup artists, we wanted to do it with people and color. So that's basically what the project is about. And we hoped that we'd give people either a talking point or, you know, something to look at maybe as a completely straight person that's not aware of the issues in the community, or the misrepresentation of the community, and look at it and say, well, let me find out a bit more, because these images don't make sense. So let me go and find out a bit more, or meet somebody at the gallery or while they're looking at it and start a conversation. So that's really what it was about for us.
Yeah. We wanted to get people talking.
All right, yeah, definitely got me thinking. In a very good way. Loved exploring the images, coming up to my own ideas as to what the concept was about. As I said, it's just extending a bit of mindfulness. So, from your side, what sparked the idea?
We've got a very close friend who owns a gallery in Nelspruit in Bombela. And Claude Kruger of Gallery Form Bombela invited us to exhibit works in his gallery. And he wanted it from the end of May. And then we thought, well, what better thing to look at? It's Pride Month. Let's do something in celebration of Pride Month. And we did a bit of research, etc. And that's where the whole idea was born. And then many nights of brainstorming and bumping heads and arguing and agreeing and finally coming up with a concept that we both loved and poured our hearts and souls into.
Okay, wonderful. This may be an unfair question to ask, but of the lot, is there a favorite image?
We each have a favorite image, so we disagree on this.
Okay.
So my favorite image is Pride Red. Perhaps for obvious reasons. Number one, it is my incredible wife that is in the picture. But sometimes I find that the pictures or the shoots that are most difficult end up being my favorite ones, because we get such incredible results at the end. Michelle's makeup that she'd ordered for the shoot hadn't arrived yet, so she had to adapt and create a new way of applying. And she was in the bald cap and the makeup for 8 hours before we started shooting. And I could see at one point she just felt like she was not going to do this anymore, but she pushed through like a champion. And we ended up doing the shoot. And from the first image that came up on the computer, I was like, wow, this is, I love doing this. Let's keep going. Let's see what we can get. So that's my favorite. It also, the editing was just, I didn't have to think about it. I opened the image up. It was the last image that I edited. And so when I opened the image up, I was worried at first that I wasn't going to know which way to go with it, because I'd done all the other ones, but it just flowed, and it was a really great and easy edit for me.
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. Yours, Michelle.
I bet you know which my favorite is. It doesn't take a genius to work that one out. It was Spirits.
Violet, am I right?
Yeah, absolutely. I had so much fun with our model, Aiden, who's a darling and a friend, and I've known him for a while, and it's not our first shoot together. And I always tell my closest friends, I always wish I'd been born a gay man so that I could dress up as a drag queen, because it's just something in me that I absolutely love. It and inspires me and excites me. So I spent 3 days building the headdress, making the costume, a stole that we wrapped, and then I even made fingernails, and we went crazy. And I had so much fun with Aiden on the day. And yeah, it was like being on RuPaul's sets in the background helping with makeup. I enjoyed every minute. So that for me was just my favorite. And the end result was exquisite, because he hit the mark every time with the photos, and his poses were beautiful, and the music was playing, and it was fantastic. So yeah, that was my favorite, obviously.
All right. So the work has been exhibited, still being exhibited, right? Do you want to tell us a little more about that? So where and how has it been received, etc., etc.? Tell me more about the exhibit.
So we had a really great opening 2 nights. The first night was sort of VIPs and invited guests, and the second night, we opened it up to all our friends, family members from the community, and so we had a fantastic time chatting to people, explaining what we were thinking, getting their feedback on it and their ideas. And it's currently still until the end of June. It is displayed at Gallery.4 in Mobela in Urban House, and it's it was quite intimidating when Claude initially said, "I want an exhibition. You've got the entire space." I didn't know how to fill all the walls. But we made them 50 by 100 centimeters, 2-to-1 crop. And, once the framing was done and we took them into the gallery that day and put them up on the white walls, everything just worked. So each frame represents the color in the dominant color in the photograph. So there's 9 different frames, each one with its own color. And fortunately, Brian from the frame room that did the framing for us, he was so on board with this idea. Initially, we weren't sure about it. We thought colored frames, that's a very risky thing to do. But for the exhibition, it works. And it looks really great.
Imagine.
At the gallery.
Okay, on note with that, how important is it for photographers and makeup artists to exhibit/print their work?
Want to start? I think it's extremely important to get your work printed at least once. If it's not the medium that you shoot for, just do it once and do it as big as you can. There's no greater feeling. I come from the old film days, and it was such a good feeling seeing your photograph, come appear in front of your face. And with this, again, I was reminded just how great it is to actually take it from a digital format, because we're so used to digital formats now, and actually see it in a physical printed media. And when it's big, you hold it up and you can stand a meter or 2 away from it and view it. That's a really good feeling. It also makes you more critical of your work. Everything being on a little cell phone screen these days, we can hide a lot of stuff. I'm guilty of it as well. There's mistakes in my shots that I get away with because it's so tiny. But when you print it a meter wide, every last detail is there for you to inspect, and you make sure that it makes you a better photographer, I think, in the end of the day.
It definitely helps with makeup as well, because as Geran says, every tiny little detail is bam in your face, so it's got to be right. So it makes you work harder.
And I think it's very important to exhibit the work, because social media is it's easy to make a comment on something and then sort of put the phone down and you don't have to deal with the person again. Whereas if you do put it in a gallery and if you're there actually interacting with people, they get to say things that might not agree with what you thought, and it gets you thinking a little bit further, or it's to see a person's real reaction instead of just a comment on the phone. That makes a world of difference. To see there was a young person that night at the exhibition who their eyes lit up when they looked at the photographs. I could see that they wanted to say something, but we left them. But that reaction, you could never get that over a comment on the phone or a computer screen.
Yeah, I'm of the notion that, well, personally, I don't really subscribe to the idea of starting over. I think we evolve as we go along. We kind of leave the bad bits behind, move on with the good bits, and to have your work printed, you can see where you're coming from. You can also remind yourself how good you are. It's just a bit of a reminder, a pat on the back, just to say, hey, I have accomplished something. So this is a confidence that you can provide yourself moving forward with as well. And it's just good to surround yourself with that. Even if it's old work, it's not your best work, you can see where you have come from. You can see the growth. So from my personal opinion, definitely very important to have your work printed and displayed all around you.
Yeah. Yeah. And once you develop a relationship with a printer, that's something to hang on. So someone who understands you as a photographer and guides you in the printing process, telling you, maybe increase your highlights a little bit because it is going to print to stop darker. That when you have that confidence to chat to a person or the printer, that really helps. And we've been very lucky to have a very close friend actually do our printing for us.
Yes, there's a challenge as well to have the monitored and everything calibrated. Like once you get a bad print, it almost puts you off for life. But yeah, it's just have to keep pushing. And as you said, have a good relationship with the printer.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So here's a long question. So I find that in our industries, we like to ask the how question. So by how do we get the shot? How do I accomplish this? Questions pertaining to gear and technique. Not very often do we ask the why question. So why do we do this? Why should we do this? And obviously as photographers, we have reasons why we're doing what we're doing and reasons why we want people to have a look at our work. So is it something that you agree with, that the why question is kind of not that prominent, whereas the how questions, the technical, gear-related, technique-related questions are a bit over-asked?
Yeah, I think the how, people grab a makeup brush and they go for it. But why are you doing that? We start with why, so that we don't. There's a lot of trends being followed. There's a very much a copy and paste sort of mentality, which we don't want to be in that sort of category. Don't be restricted to that. Yeah, I like trying things, of course, but you want to start with why. Why do you want to do this? Do you want to create a beautiful photograph? Is it a narrative, or do you want to make a social comment? Do you want to highlight something? And I think fundamentally that's where we start, is why are we doing this? And then we brainstorm it. Like, okay, so we want to do this, and then how are we going to do it? Because there are many ways to approach a thing. So no, that's where we start, is why.
I mean, I think photographers very easily get caught in the how of stuff because it's such a technical, it's a technical platform, and being a gadget freak myself, it's always nice looking at the latest camera and what it can do and how is it going to make my photography better. And especially after the last sort of 2 months, I've realized that, yes, gear is important for certain reasons, but it is definitely not important for your creativity. If you're going to shoot a commercial for a big media house, then you need specific gear. They require specific stuff. But to produce something like what we've done here, you can shoot this on an entry-level camera, as long as you can control the settings on it. And so the how is always important, or it's the entrance into the game. But the why is when you start looking at what if your work really matters. And when you ask yourself that question, why would my work matter? That's when I think you start getting into a new phase of your photographic journey. And that's what we want to do from this moment on, is always ask ourselves, are we addressing a social issue, or are we telling a story? Why are we doing this? Is it worth getting into this argument, or does this social issue need addressing? And then you ask yourself, okay, how am I going to do that with my art? But the why should come first. I think the why is more important than the how.
No, absolutely. It's a trap that I often find myself personally trapped in every now and then, kind of doing lighting exercises as opposed to taking a photograph, creating a photograph. So I find myself doing those drills over and over, but the why question kind of gets lost, and the soul is not in the image itself. But just to anyone listening, that why questions will arrive to you. So don't push for it. As I said, this is a journey with interacting with different people, with empathy, with compassion for one another. You're going to get your meaning and your purpose. So just bide your time. Obviously, work hard at what you're doing. But yeah, the whys will arrive. It's a very popular storytelling narrative that the journey is more important than the destination. So if you watch your Lord of the Rings and your Lion Kings, etc., very popular stories. Now just be that hobbit, leave the Shire every now and then, introduce a bit of chaos into your life, but chaos in a good way, but with compassion and empathy backing you up. Interact with people, learn from one another, and yeah, purpose and meaning will definitely fall on your lap.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so my next question. Okay, I don't have it listed here, but how do you view conceptual art photography in today's world?
Well, there is. If you go and look, you're going to find a lot of conceptual arts, and some of it is mind-blowingly fantastic, you know. And we make it our business to look for it and get ideas and see what people are doing, because you have to look at artworks and to create your own style and to get on new ideas and to grow. You need to know what's going on in the art world around you. Yeah, but I think conceptual art not only is to highlight social issues, but also sometimes just a narrative, tell a story, so you can lose yourself in a different world, because we've got a lot going on in the world at the moment that's fairly droll and not very uplifting. So I think conceptual art is very important. It's a form of escapism, and it's fantasy, which I live for.
I think it comes down to, you know, in the world, if you look at statistics and numbers, then trends are definitely more popular. I mean, that's why they call it trend. However, if you look at history, you know, the people that you read about in history were not the sheep. They were the ones who thought a bit differently, who wanted to break free from, you know, the trend, as you speak. And I think conceptual photography is a really great medium to start exploring that, because you got to kind of think outside the box. It's not there for you to follow. There's an example, and now you've got to do something with it, and make your own thing. So conceptual photography, I think, is only going to get bigger in the next couple of years, because the means to do conceptual photography is getting more accessible to more people. You know, 6 months ago, I was really struggling using Photoshop. You know, I worked in Photoshop version 3 last time. You know, that was over 14 years ago. And then when we started the studio in
6.
Yeah.
I can imagine what that may have looked like.
No, it was very different to what it is today. And when we started the studio in last year, you know, I realized I had to do Photoshop again, and I was nervous, and I opened it up and sort of closed it back down, because I realized, no, there's just too much new stuff, and I didn't want to learn, and I didn't want to go through it. And basically for this project, I just sort of jumped into it and got onto YouTube and started contacting old friends that I knew, and said, listen, what's the best way to go about this? And with a couple of basics, you know, we did this just by exploring, you know, and it was conceptual photography. It was looking at other conceptual artists that pushed me to try and get into Photoshop again. Yeah.
All right, so just on topic as well, but definitely conceptual photography, the doors have been opened towards it because of, as you said, Photoshop and computer-generated imagery. So you don't need to build things as we did in the old days. But on topic with that, to touch on that, so as a makeup artist, do you feel somewhat, what's your opinion of all of these things being done on Photoshop instead? So I love the practical stuff, like the old movie making ways of the practical effects and stuff. Do you think that's fading away, or are there ways of complementing the two?
Well, obviously they do complement. If you just have the right, like we've got a good setup, they work together. I do my bit, he does his bit, and bam, we've got a thing we're happy. I think that makeup industry has grown over the decades. It's insane. You know, it's something we use every day on a daily basis, either as an armor or as something to hide your flaws or just feel better about yourself. So I don't feel threatened in that sense. I do believe that the basics are required. Like you can CGI and Photoshop and that, but I do believe that the basics are required for the editor to work with something. So I don't feel threatened as such. And I think, remember, the live entertainment world and the art world has always used makeup, theatre, live shows. So in terms of that, it's going to live on forever. Makeup has found its place and it's here to stay. But I don't feel threatened by it as a makeup artist, because I don't feel myself or my talent being replaced by computer generated editing or programs, or so it's an exploration thing. So yeah, no, as far as I'm concerned, no threat.
Yeah, and I think the advancements in AI technology and CGI is absolutely fantastic. And I mean, it's very exciting to see how far the machine can go. But there's a great example, and I cannot for the life of me remember the title of the film now, but they wanted to save budget, so they said let's just get the 3D artists to make a tower in the background of the shot, and they spent 3 weeks building the tower on the computer, and they shot it on green screen and they put it in, and the production designer walked in on the dailies and had a look at the stuff, and he said, "Guys, you cannot use that tower." And they said, "Why not?" He said, "Well, the film is set in 1895. And that tower wasn't built until 1930. So it's those nuances. The artist will still know what's best.
Yes.
I can perhaps mimic what Michelle does with Photoshop in 10 years' time. It will take me that long to learn it, but I will never have her artistry in makeup.
Yes.
I'm a photographer, and a computer generator or a graphic artist working on computers, they're graphic artists. They know how to work with 3D modeling and light and all those kind of things. But to come up with a completely new makeup concept, it becomes too much for one person to do.
Yeah, it's going to sound cliche, but it's not just based on what it looks like. It has to be what it feels like. It requires a lot of expertise and study beyond that. It's not just something that can be replicated on a day on a computer. As I said, there has to be a lot of intelligence behind it and artistry.
Yeah, and I mean, I've looked at these CGI programs and sort of thought about, okay, let's learn how to use them. And I tell you, that to me is still a lot more work than actually doing it in real life. If I had to have a brain explode from a head in a shot, then I'd ask Michelle, just do it for me with a syringe and a pipe, and she makes her mix and everything. But to create that frame for frame on a computer, it seems to me like endless work, and I don't want to sit there for that long. So we've still got our place. We can revisit this topic in 20 years' time, I suppose.
Oh, yeah, I think so. Yes. Okay, so having a look at these images, I see a lot of expression, movement, plenty of dynamism. So nothing static or passive whatsoever. So just in regards to it's not just physical movement, but it's I can almost hear a voice, like a whisper, getting louder and louder when having a look at these photos. So would you agree with that, number one? And also, how did you aim to capture that? So before we get to the answer of that, we're going to get into the kind of the behind the scenes footage of what these two created. So we're going to talk more about technique and all the equipment that was used here. So number one, yes, would you agree with the movement aspect of it? And sort of from scratch, how did you aim to capture that?
So we're very happy that you say that, because we definitely wanted the photographs to have an impact, speak to a person, per se. But I think once the color helps a lot, because color speaks to emotion, or it invokes emotion. So after Michelle did her makeup and applied all her colors, and we put models on the floor, then their movement sort of brought out the rest. And then you kind of just tweak it with the edits in the end. When I show the BTS now, you'll see that the straight out of camera shots in terms of the colors and the elements that are there is not completely different from the end product. So that was, they do speak for themselves, but I think it's because of the team that was behind it, and largely because of the people that were involved in this actually wanted to bring something out of the photographs.
Right. Yeah.
So I don't know what the recipe for that is. It kind of happened, and I'm very happy that it did happen. But I can't tell you exactly.
Good creative director as well.
Yes.
Good direction.
I think our history in the film industry and dealing with motion pictures and big images, you think a bit bigger. You want to tell a story. It's a narrative. It's not just a photo. It's a story.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So I don't know if you, from your side, want to prepare your BTS. Yeah, okay, I'll see it here. All right. So, okay, so we're going to talk, as I said, more about gear and technique. Geran is going to show us more images as he captured it behind the scenes and also explained all the different elements and bits and bobs that went into the photo shoot. So, okay, over to you.
Okay, so when we started, we took the pro flag, and I just wanted to show an example in case anybody wasn't familiar with it. And then we said, how are we going to encapsulate every one of these colors? And that we knew we wanted to use airbrush makeup, and we knew that we wanted to use long exposure to create the illusion of movement. So that's basically where we said, okay, fine. These are the two technical aspects. Now it's time to get creative.
To tweak it.
So it all comes down to having a brilliant creative director, and it helps a lot when she's the boss, so she tells me exactly what to do. And it started off with Michelle sort of getting everything down on paper, initial ideas, starting off with getting the props made that we needed for the shoot. Everything is done in our studio. And Michelle makes
I love those illustrations, those drawings there. Sorry to interrupt, but I just have to say that the drawings are spectacular. I want to do that. I just don't. I don't know what's blocking me from doing this, but to have everything, all my ideas, just demonstrated like that. Yeah, sorry.
The only thing that's stopping you is you stopping you. Just pick up a book and a pencil and draw.
I can sympathize with you, Conrad, because I cannot put a pencil to paper either. So, I look at what Michelle did there, and then we get to where we take it into software. I use Satellite 3D, and then, I try to mimic what she drew, and we started getting a 3D model, setting up lights, so we know what the effect's going to be. This just makes the day much more efficient because the model's already going to be in makeup for quite a long time. So you don't want to still be fiddling with lights by the time they get out of makeup. So we have a very close idea, not a perfect idea, but a quite close idea of what it's going to be in the end. From there, we start with applying the makeup. Here, Michelle is putting on a bald cap, getting ready. And then this is 7 hours later.
I'm tired.
Yeah. You can see I'm still very, very happy over there, but Michelle was broken at this stage. That's 5 layers of white just to. The mistake also that we make sometimes is and this is why we need to bounce things off each other. At this point, I said to Michelle, get on the floor. Let's see what it looks like under the light, because your eyes are going to pick up every single little detail that you don't want.
Listen, you don't understand how brown you actually are until you try and make yourself white. Okay, like you have no idea.
Right. So then eventually we got onto the studio floor, and as you can see there, we've got our two 8300s on either side of Michelle, and then the FV200, all bought from Camera Stuff, by the way.
Yeah.
From the top, our constant light source from the top. So the FV200.
Okay, so if I may just quickly pause here. So what's fascinating here is the mixture of flashes and constant lights. So as I read it, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the flash is the initial exposure shot to freeze the action, but then with a long exposure, you allow the constant light to capture the movement.
Yeah. So most of these were done actually with rear curtain sync. So the flash goes off.
Okay.
In Michelle's case, the flash goes off at the end, and we start off with the constant light. In Michelle's instance, both flashes fired at the same time, right at the end of the exposure. And let me just go there. So you can see let me just pull this one up. So this is straight out of camera. So I don't know if you can see my mouse, but that there is the beginning of the exposure, her facing away, and then she flips around, and this is the flash at the end. So we've got our backlights and our key lights over here, and we go through this process on average about 100 times per color, because there's small nuances. You can't see what's happening. It's not like instant photography where you can quickly look down and make a small adjustment. You have to reset the whole motion and go through it. And because it's happening in a black space, it's quite difficult to get that perfect. So we did a couple, and then you play around, and you can see the photos evolve as well. You started off with no cloth, and then eventually brought the cloth in, and that's what we ended up choosing. And then so from this, you start adding the lighting elements and stuff in post. You add the cloth, which we shoot separately. We did the cloth after each model so that we had the cloth in the same lighting conditions as the model. So the cloth wasn't shot on one day and then the model's on another.
Yeah, I think that's important. People tend to pull stock images, but the lighting directions are way different.
Yeah, it's that, and that's the big thing about conceptual photography. You use many elements from different sources. You have to have your eye open for that. It can make or break your photograph.
It's continuity. This makes sense.
And I really loved how the cloth actually reacted to the camera. So I did change the exposure times with the cloth. Not all of them are as slow as the model's shots, but we wanted to get different amounts of blur in the cloth. And the reason we incorporated the cloth is because we're representing a flag. So that's really the thing behind the cloth. And then that's the final image. So you can see there's quite a couple of elements that have been added. The neon that we added here in post. There's the cloth that we added in the background. The cloth that was in front of Michelle. And then this is from another shot. You probably saw it in the beginning of the video where she's actually got her back turned. I just wanted to add this element there as well.
Wonderful.
Then for Pride Blue, you can see set, but not completely. The light this time is coming from behind the model. The 8300 over there from the side is our key, and then we've got a little backfill over here, another 8300, and then my little TT350 right behind her, just to sort of give a little bit of a rim light around the subject. And then again, here is where we started playing with the different times of so on the 8300s, we set the time delay of the flash. So the one actually fired as the shutter opened, and the other one fired as the shutter closes. So you can get these amazing effects where you can actually freeze your model twice on a 4-second exposure. And I'm going to play a lot more with this. I absolutely love it. It's really a fun effect to play with.
I tried this a while ago, before the Godox days, so we didn't have the dual exposure. So I tried something similar, but it was like painting with light, but I had to press the test button on each flash. I had to run around the studio and set the flash off individually.
The things we do, hey?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and just to give you perspective, these pieces of cloth are 1/2 meter long by about 40 centimeters wide. So, this one I love. It actually looks like a bit of a wave on its own. So I was actually just fascinated with the pieces of cloth for hours as well. Then again, with this one, symmetry was really important for us. So we definitely we took the background and made it symmetrical on both sides. Obviously, replacing the clothing that Aurora had on the day with pieces of cloth that we shot as well. But this image just is really balanced. It works very nicely.
And I love how the cloth looks like fairy wings. So she just looks like
Yeah.
ethereal creature, nothing.
Mm.
Yeah, beautiful.
Right, then with yellow, the setup changed quite a bit. Our EV200 moved to the back corner of the studio. Gerard is an amazing dancer, and he replicated his moves. I wish I had actually pulled those shots for you guys, but between two exposures, which were a minute apart, you can't tell that it was just his facial expression that changed, but the legs and the feet are in the same part of the frame. So that really helped being able to replicate the movement all the time. And so he's backlit with a constant light here, and then we've got the two flashes. You'll see the one A is lying on the floor, and the other one is key light where he ends up. So when he starts over here, and he moves across the studio. So that's straight out of camera. There's the majority of the light falling on him. So obviously, as he goes away from the light, the blur effect becomes less because there's less light because of the inverse square law. There's less light falling on him. And so it was important that the 8300 on the left-hand side of frame wasn't strong enough to illuminate him at the end of this exposure. And just to show the high-speed sync capabilities of these little flashes, I did this one. I thought I might have needed this particular shot just to get better features out of his face that I might have to comp in. But we ended up going with the original picture and just added the cloth over his the pants that he was wearing. And I really liked the way this one came out. This picture, I loved editing. It was just, the sunlight is very powerful. And I really enjoyed doing this particular picture. Then for Pride Green,
I like this
Jaco
one.
came in and did a test shoot with us first, where we did no makeup on him. I just wanted to see if he's comfortable in the studio and all of that.
Yeah, he's a new friend of my girls at the school that they attend. They're in a homeschooling academy. He's a very shy child. He's very quiet. And we offered, I wanted to use his beautiful face because he's absolutely magnificent. So, and I immediately saw my fairy. I saw him and I saw my fairy. And then he said, he wasn't sure. And his mom is very supportive of him. And she's like, yeah, we must just tell him it's a school project. And if he doesn't do it, he gets 0. So that's a supportive mother. So he came and he spent a day with us. So we did a few test shots, but yeah.
And so this was, again, just to sort of play with the idea of symmetry. I wanted to see how we're going to comp this all together. And then on the day, we knew, because nature, we wanted to incorporate some plants. Our local nursery very generously let us use some of their plants. And again, we've got our key light sort of off to camera left here. Our constant light this time is coming right from the back. So if you look carefully, you'll see the blur in this shot is actually more on the plants, that we were lying on the ground shaking them while the exposure was going. And I enjoyed this green cloth for some reason. It gave me the most interesting shapes. I don't know if the throwing was just on point that day or what was happening, but I really enjoyed the shapes. So there you can see the blur from the plants. He's fairly still. And then that is our final image that we ended up with.
Wonderful.
Yeah, and I wanted nature to have elements of rain and water and plants, and then this creature with a powerful force emanating from him, so that's why the cloth is so symmetrical coming out of him, and he's almost on a throne in the back, this elven creature. Then for purple or violet, because it was the drag queen, initially the idea, you can see we had 5 images or 5 poses that we wanted to incorporate in the beginning. But on the day, we realized that with the blur effect, with the movement, we were not going to fit all 5 in. So we dropped 2 of them, and we actually only ended up with 3. Here we started playing with a little bit of gels, and our constant light is a color, and that also added a brand new element. So we've got our 8300 sort of shooting from the side here, and then there's our key light from the front and our constant light at the back. And then the TT350 working its heart out again there. Really doesn't compete with the 8300s, but it's trying, just to pick up some sparkles on the headdress. And then we ended up with 3 separate images that we then put together to form the final product at the end. And this one again, with the showmanship and with the beauty and the sort of extraness of drag queens. This was just such a fun project to do, a fun photograph to do. And Aiden was a star. Everything just worked. For orange, we played with the gels again, as you can see in the light there. And our initial idea with healing wasn't strong enough for us. So as we got closer to the shoot, we changed it and we got hold of Sphere. And because of her personal story, she was just the perfect choice. And we didn't really know exactly how the pose was going to work with her. But when she got on the floor, she just made it up herself and it worked stunning. So this is just a straight out of camera shot just to show you the skin tone. She is painted orange.
Very orange.
And then obviously with the orange lighting, everything sort of becomes one color. But we gave her the sort of shroud to hide in. And with the initial picture or with the final picture, she transforms from the unhealed self to the healed self. So it goes from quite a cold tone to a warmer tone. And this was a lovely day of shooting as well. Then for people of color, we had an initial idea of 2 individuals, 2 men.
So we wanted the infinity pose, but we couldn't get another model on the day. So
So Michelle quickly decided to actually change our model into 2 colors, which I thought was absolutely
staggered by this. This is so unique, so gorgeous, so cleverly thought out.
Yeah. So and I mean, Blessing was so wonderful at playing one side up against the other that I eventually thought that there were 2 people on the floor. And if you look at the image at the bottom left, he was really good. We gave him instruction to sort of pause in the photograph. So he understood that he had 4 seconds to do the shot in. We upped it to 6 seconds at the end of the day. And he knew that on second 3, he had to give us a slight pause. So that face that's in the middle there, this is all done in camera.
Yeah.
And that's just to show how important your models are to understand how to move. And he's an incredible dancer. So that really helped.
Yeah, he really got the idea. Once we'd explained what we were doing properly, he was just, I've got this. And he just kept throwing these. So it was very difficult for us to choose the final photograph because so many were magnificent. But he's a very special individual.
And with him, again, we played with a time delay. At the top here, very frontal, we've got the constant light. I had both modeling lights on for the shoot. Just to give us a little bit of extra light on the sides, but we actually started the exposure on camera right and ended the exposure on camera left. So the 8300, the beauty dish, fired as exposure started, and then the P90 parabolic box there fired at the end. This eventually, and as you can see, the color that was generated sort of in camera and the color that we ended up using is very, very similar. So there's very little work done in terms of color correction here in post because and when your makeup is on point and when your makeup is great, there is no reason to mess with it. So that Michelle on this one. Then for trance,
sorry to interrupt you. Can you just go back a couple of slides? I just want to compliment you on a little traffic cones on a studio as well. So both as being the market as to where the models need to, where they start, where they end.
It's important to, there's already a lot going on. So I find that just having little things like this helps the models to know exactly, so they don't feel like they messed up because they overstepped a mark or something. So any aid that you can give them helps as well. So we knew, you know, Blessing wanted to know how much he's got to move in, because in some of the other shots, his arms extended quite a lot. So we didn't want his arm going out of frame. So we ended up putting the cones down. And because you can't look down, we can't put gaffer tape or anything like that. So the cones really helped. It was an aid for him to step onto.
Yeah, the cones are big enough. It will be in your peripheral vision, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. So
I just like the TT 350 there, standing like a proud child, sort of looking up at everything.
I tell you what, that little Flash has got attitude. Hey, he thinks it can take on maybe 300 any day of the week.
It's like that little Pixar thingy.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you can see here by this stage, this was the second last shoot we did. So the airbrushing, if anybody says it's a good idea to airbrush inside your studio, it's not. Okay. The airbrush left makeup residue on everything.
Everywhere.
I'm still cleaning it up. So you can see the past makeup stuck here on the floor already. It's a very, very fine dust. So
spreading the love.
Well, I couldn't do setups while Michelle was doing makeup because I had to hide all my stuff, you know, in the cupboards.
Oh yeah.
Because
we did baby powder once in the studio, and from that day, baby powder has been banned.
Yeah, I can imagine.
It's got everywhere.
Right. So with trance, this was our initial idea. And then on the day, we realized that it wasn't such a strong image. And we weren't very happy with it.
It wasn't working.
So we asked our models to come up with a new movement, and they gave us this, which I could immediately see when they did this. I could see the white overexposure in the middle of the photograph, and I loved it. And I loved the fact that the blue moves from left to right. I mean, you get those streaks on both sides, and so we ended up with this picture at the end.
I love the shit.
Yeah. And with this one, what we did here is the cloth is actually just really enlarged. So you don't see the definition of it so much. You can see some streaks, but I just zoomed in on the cloth to fill both sides of the picture with the opposite color.
And as I mentioned before, they never met before, the two models. We are both friends, very close friends with both of them, but they don't know each other. And they got to be good friends. So now they call each other Pinky and Bluey.
Right. So just a note on working with Flash as well for the photographers out there. So that trick that you mentioned earlier about firing the test button in your hand, that's exactly what we did here. So this is a 8-second exposure, and Michelle was sitting with the X Pro trigger, and she was just pressing the test button, and we were going through the motions. And you know, it gives you for the effect that we wanted to achieve. I really loved what it was doing. Yeah, so anybody's interested in settings, all of these were done on ISO 50, between 4 and 8 seconds exposure, between f11 and 13, and then all done with a Sigma Art 70mm. So that's straight out of camera. And again, the colors were perfect. I really liked the makeup that Michelle chose for this one. And as you can see, very little done, just accentuating the gold a little bit. Yeah, and it was I really enjoyed the result on this one.
I enjoyed every minute because I got to give my husband dreadlocks, which has been like a dream of mine since forever. So I was very fortunate to study under a wonderful makeup artist who has passed since, Bobby van der Westhuizen, and I worked on several big feature films with him. And he taught me, don't overcomplicate hair, just go. Start the process, just go. Trust yourself and trust the process, and it works. So yeah, I love working with small bits and pieces that make something look bam.
The kids were happy because
I got an earring in him.
Dad
too.
even got an earring for this one. So yeah, that's basically it.
Okay, yeah. So just to reiterate, so this was done with a multi-mode with the flash. So the flash you can set a number of flashes at a certain frequency, and you just open the shutter and it goes ba 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 ba, and you just have to time your movements then.
Yeah,
but it can be done manually as well, as you said, with pressing of the test button.
Yeah. I was just because I was not behind the camera. I thought, don't overcomplicate anything. It worked when Michelle can time herself when she wants the test button to fire, I'm very happy with the result we got at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm getting a little icon that says my battery is like 20%. So we have, I think, about 10 minutes left. So tell us a bit more about Sculpt Studios. So kind of the origins, where you're heading, what you're offering, where is it in the first place?
Okay, well, we're in Nelspruit, Mbombela, and Mpumalanga. And we started off with portraiture and product photography, but I wasn't able to express myself enough creatively in just sort of churning out nice, natural-looking makeup and very stoic poses. Is just a little bit... it's restricting in terms of artistry. So we're moving towards more creative concepts, photography, storytelling, narrative, touching on social issues, being more expressive and bigger, more makeup, more props, more wardrobe, more. So that's what we're passionate about.
Yeah, we're like Michelle said, we're in Nelspruit. It's a wonderful part of the country. Perhaps not the best place for what we particularly do in terms of, the industry is not so big here. It's more wildlife orientated and lifestyle. Our studio is our safe space, and we can't wait to get here every day. We just absolutely love what we do.
I always tell people I color in for a living, and they're like, "What? What do you do?"
So good way of putting it. All right. So the images also are for sale. So how do people reach you?
So on the website, geranraath.photography, under portfolio projects and works, Pride Blur, there is contact details for gallery.4. All sales are going through Claude. He handles that part of it. So if anybody's interested, go have a look at it there. The write-up is there as well about each image. So that's all the information that there is. And from the website, you'll find all our social links. Otherwise, just search for Sculpt Studio on sort of social media, and you'll find Michelle or myself. And
okay, allow me to drop that in the comments. Linking now. I would also recommend it read as well for anyone listening. I'll just go here and I'll just take in the captions and the descriptions. It's very compelling and poignant. I enjoyed reading it myself. Okay, so as makeup artist and photographer, how do you make certain you two are on the same wavelength?
it's very tells me what to do, or I'm in big trouble. So.
Yeah, he reads the script.
I think the key is communication and each other. I'm always fascinated with what Michelle is doing. She's getting back into prosthetics now, and behind us, that's her workspace over there. You can't see it now, but there's faces lying on the table, and she's busy building horns and ears and all kinds of stuff. And it fascinates me, and I ask her what she's doing, and she explains. And at the same token, she wants to know, why am I putting a light here? Why am I doing this with a photograph? So because of that communication, because of that mutual interest in each other's work, it's really easy to understand both the challenges and the strengths. And we push each other for the different aspects of what we do. She knows sometimes when I've got a mental block on something, she says to me, "But do you remember what you did that time?"
Yes.
And then I'm like, "Yes, exactly. Now I know what to do." So it really helps just keeping the lines open. We're fortunate because we with each other every day, but I think all photographers can spend more time with their creative directors, makeup artists, set builders, whoever they work with, the stylists, spend time with them, go have a coffee, chat about the latest ideas of what you guys want to put together. not just meet on the studio floor or on location and start from there. Have those meetings beforehand.
It's good to know each other, and yeah, a lot comes from that, like understanding and knowing each other.
Michelle, any advice to aspiring makeup artists and practical effect artists as well?
I think for me, it's more, be careful of the copy and paste. Be very careful of the copy and paste. It's done to death. It's extremely boring. We know everyone wants to look like a Kardashian, but let's move on now. Okay, let's do something different. Let's tell a story. Let's make a statement. Be yourself. And if you're an aspiring makeup artist, do your homework, go and study, get an actual degree. I mean, I went to London, I got a degree, I came back, I appied, I worked under some of the best in the industry. You've got to do the groundwork. You've got to work for other makeup artists and learn from them. It's all in the practical. You've got to learn. And then you take those things and you make it yours. You then get your own style. You decide how you want to pack your makeup box. You like sponge, I prefer brush for foundation application. You've got to really do the groundwork. Unfortunately, YouTube, 1 or 2 videos are not going to make you an actual makeup artist. This is something that frustrates me. You need to do the work. And then believe in yourself. And you've got to have a pair. You've got to say to somebody, look, I can't do this. I have a makeup brush. It's not a magic wand. I can't do that. You've got to be honest and you've got to be real. And I think you'll be just fine. And also keep up with what's going on. I'm not saying do the trend. I'm saying make sure you're aware of the trend. So yeah, that's me.
Any advice to young photographers?
Shoot as much as you can. Now, from a very personal perspective, in my first year, I think I worked it out, I went through almost 4 kilometers of film, my first year of studies, and we were rolling and loading it ourselves. And it cost me dearly, but I was just fascinated with the process. And, today with digital, there's no excuse not to shoot more than it used to be. And it's faster as well. And it's only through making mistakes that you realize what you can improve on and what you can actually accomplish with a camera. Look at the old masters, what they used to do. Go learn about Ansel Adams. If there's one single piece of advice, go and learn what Ansel Adams did. If you understand what he did, that makes everything so much easier. The zone system is incredibly important as a basic understanding. And then, just have fun. We tend to shoot. I fell into the trap in the beginning. You start shooting for money and you end up shooting stuff that you don't want to use on your portfolio. You kind of just get into this mill and don't do that. That's not what photography is there for. There are headshot photographers that make good money and have great careers and that they love doing that. But if you feel like you want more out of photography and you're not satisfied at the end of your day, then go and do something different. Don't just shoot for the next job. Obviously, money is important, but you have to actually shoot for yourself. You can't just keep shooting for other people. Your own idea, get collaborative with other artists. Find somebody who's willing to do something with you. And I tell you, if you commit to something serious, if you say to yourself, okay, I want to print 2 photographs and hang them in a coffee shop, go make that deal, because that deadline is going to push you beyond what you thought you could do. If we don't set ourselves unrealistic goals, we don't push ourselves far enough. Then we get comfortable, and comfortable is never a good thing.
No, we work best
Not
under pressure.
complacency. It's not a good. I like what you said. Be fascinated with the process. I'm going to put that on a T-shirt. I think that is very, very important. The process. Yes, I think we've come full circle here when I said the journey is as important as the destination, if not more. Okay, so last question from my side. Any shout-outs? People that you want to thank? Any people who should know?
Crayon, South Africa, thank you for always being my go-to. You guys, I ordered the bald cap the afternoon. The very next day it was there. Other makeup didn't arrive, but the stuff I ordered from you guys was there. Love you guys. Love your stuff. Love your products. All works. You guys are great. Thank you to Crayon, South Africa specifically, because I didn't order it in from somewhere else.
Big shout out to our friends and our family. Deuce Designs. That's where our studio is located. It's a creative space. This entire thing. They're a branding and signage company. Such incredible people that always support us and put their head through the door and see what we're up to. They fuel us. To Brian at the frame room for under immense pressure, getting all the pictures framed and on time. We really appreciate what he did so much. Heinrich from Kodak Crossing for doing all the prints at the last minute because I was delayed with the last edits, but never letting us down.
And our children for being able to live with two great crazy parents, and they basically live in the studio with us. They're studying for exams here, they sleep here, we work until 12 in the evening sometimes, so they are wonderful, incredible kids, and we love them, and we're very grateful to have them.
Huge shout out to all the models that were part of this project, if they're watching. Could not have done it without them, and they were just fantastic from the start, so patient with us and willing to give their input. So we really, really appreciate them.
And very importantly, thank you to Claude at Gallery 4 Bombela for giving us that extra push. Like, we need this in 4 weeks, do it. And we did. So thank you, Claude, for your love and your friendship and believing in us. And Jacques.
Yeah, that's basically, and then to you guys for giving us this opportunity to talk about it. And, you know, I see on the net all the time, and I'm not saying this because we're on your channel, but your service is the best. You know, I order my backdrops and stuff, and like the next day it's here. So whoever you've got behind the scenes there running and getting the stuff shipped out, you guys are fantastic.
Thank you.
I'll be certain to tell him his name's Geran. He's a very popular chap.
Geran, thank you.
I saw his picture the other day. I just couldn't remember his name.
No.
Okay, yes, he's the guy. He's the king of shipping. So he's the star. He's just soul of camera stuff. From our side, it's a big thank you as well. It's always interesting bouncing off one another and seeing what other photographers are up to. Sometimes, as I said, sometimes preconceived challenges get, some preconceived biases get challenged every now and then, and it's worthwhile. It's worthwhile getting our work out there and seeing different people how they want to express themselves. It's completely wonderful. I've enjoyed this conversation thoroughly, and the work that you've put out there was inspiring to me as well.
Thank you, Conrad. If you find yourself in Nelspruit, you must come visit us, please.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And let me find you on the side of the world and you don't pop in for a coffee.
Yeah, no, that wouldn't be cool.
Okay, perfect. Okay, I'll definitely do that then. All right, so from our side, thank you for joining. Thank you for watching. Have a pleasant night further. So it's from our side. Goodbye and cheers until next time.
Good night. God bless.
Bye-bye.
Ciao.